Hello lovely people! This week I'm doing my traditional start of the new year top 10 books I want to read in insert year here, this time 2019!
Sophie Vlogs.
I always set myself 10 books I want to read because I really like going through my little to read pile, slash my large to read pile is the point. And like reminding myself of stuff that's there that might have been there for a while that maybe I want to get round to, or like new stuff that's just come in which I'm super excited about. Last year, 2018, I read 8 of the books I set myself to read. One of them I am still reading, which is The Fairy Queen, and that's going to take me a very, very long time. And then one I didn't read, but I'm going to try and read it this year anyway, but I'm just not including it in this list. So, that's probably enough of a preamble, and I'm just going to go into it. I will link to last year's video down below if you're interested. I didn't do a big wrap-up of all of them, I've just talked about them in various book chat wrap-ups, but if you'd like a wrap-up, just let me know, and I can do that. Enough faff, let's get into it. So, this is in no particular order, I'm just going to start with The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I'm really excited about this. This is like a fantasy... I don't know why that took me so long to say the word fantasy book. I think the tale is based on one of the stories within 1001 Nights. That's my understanding. And it's the first in a series, so if I enjoy this, I will also want to read the whole series. But I've heard a lot of buzz about this. I follow the author on Twitter, and she seems super interesting and really up on her history. So I'm just very excited to sort of throw myself in with that little knowledge, not a lot of knowledge, and sort of just like discover this for myself. I don't really want to know too much about it going in. I just want to like dive head first and see what it's like. After that, we've got a book which I got for my birthday in July, so I should really read it soon, and that's The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. This takes place in Restoration England. Our said Ursula wants to be like a playwright, wants to write for Restoration Theatre. I gather she's not really supposed to. Yeah, so essentially, like, she wants to have freedom to do what she wants to do, but in order to do that, there is a price to pay. That's sort of my understanding. So I'm excited to have like a little restoration romp through theatrical things with maybe like a slightly darker undertone of like some prices and some mysteries, maybe. I don't really know, but it has a gorgeous cover, so I'm hyped. Third up is Indigo by Marina Warner. I've mentioned this quite recently a number of times. This is a retelling of The Tempest, highlighting these themes of like colonialism and fairy tales and myths that sort of run throughout it, and sort of revisiting these. So I read The Tempest at the end of last year, haven't posted that book chat yet, but will do in the future. I'm just excited to now, it's a story that I find interesting. It's maybe, in my opinion, not the most accessible of Shakespeare's plays compared to some of his other ones, but I'm intrigued by it and I sort of want to explore it further, so I'm hoping that reading some adaptations would maybe help me like muddle out how I feel about all the different characters and stuff like that, but like to see them in a new setting / interpretation, if that makes sense. Fourth, we have The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater? I don't know how you say her last name, despite the fact that I know that all of BookTube is hyped about this book, and I've definitely watched videos where people pronounce the last name. I've forgotten. I'm really hyped about this because I've heard so many good things. So Blue has been told that her true love will die if she kisses him. And then there's like a local private school known as the Raven Boys. They mean only trouble. She sort of gets drawn into it. There's magic, there's like twists and stuff. I've been told that although Blue sometimes seems a little bit undefined compared to the boys in this book, that this series grows and becomes really, really fantastic. So I bought myself the first book, and I'm excited to sort of like just jump in, see what I think. If you've read this, I would like to hear your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on everything, but particularly The Raven Boys, because I have heard a lot of hype about that. For my fifth book, I've gone for Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I've been getting really into Jane Austen recently. I really enjoyed Northanger Abbey. I found that great. This is the only other Jane Austen that I currently own. I do want to get my hands on all the rest of her stuff because I'm like really loving it. But I thought, let's just go for the one you've already got, girl. I don't actually know a huge amount about Mansfield Park. It's not one that I've watched a film adaptation of, so I'm sort of going to go in a little bit blind, but I did that with Northanger Abbey, and I really liked not knowing what was happening for once, because all the other Emma and Pride and Prejudice, I already knew what happened, and I'd already seen like adaptations of them. So these ones, I go in and I sort of have my own, I can like see them how I see them and stuff like this. There's no pre-knowledge going on. So I'm excited for this one too. Next up is Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. The reason I want to read this one is I mentioned a number of times that I'm getting really into food writing. This is not non-fiction food writing, this is fiction, but food really runs throughout it. I gather that it's like magical realism, set in Mexico, and I know that there are recipes that run throughout this because they start with a little recipe, ingredients and stuff like this. And so I just really want to have, like, it's a romance with food running throughout it, and I feel like it's going to be quite delicious, both in many ways of the word. So I don't actually know anything more than that, and I'm just going to, like, dive in and see what it's like. So much of these I'm like, I don't really know more than that, I'm just excited. But that's what I'm like. After that, we've got The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, which is like a Victorian sort of gothic-y mystery type thing. I know this was adapted into a musical, and I like some of the songs from the musical, although I've never seen the musical. I don't read a lot of Victorian literature. It's not always a genre that I find super accessible, despite the fact that it's obviously quite broad. So I'm trying to change that, maybe. Just like test the waters again, see how I get on. So, this is like our guy, Walter, encounters a solitary, terrified and beautiful woman dressed in white. He feels impelled to solve the mystery of her distress. So I'm expecting there to be lots of little plot threads, lots of, like, weaving throughout, a bit of gothic, a bit of, like, tension, that sort of thing. So I might save this one for, like, either do it at the start of the year, in the darker months, or save it for more of, like, an October-y, autumn-y type thing. I don't know, but I'm gonna. Next up, I realise this is the only non-fiction I've included. I read a lot of non-fiction. I will read more non-fiction than just this in this year, but this is the only one that I'm currently like, yes, for sure. I want to read A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates by Captain Charles Johnson. I like me some pirates. I love me some history. This is like, most of our pirate, like, myths and knowledge and, like, oh, Blackbeard did this type things come from here. And also, I know that Captain Charles Johnson is a pseudonym for someone, although we're not 100% sure, and there are theories as to who it actually is, and blah, 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 blah. But I'm just originally published in 1724, so, like, during the golden age of piracy. I just want to get a sense of where all of these things that we talk about as if they're, like, 100% truth come from. And, yes, I just gotta learn more about pirates. I like pirates, and I live in Bristol, which is, like, we've got some pirate history, so I just thought it'd be interesting to read some more stuff about pirates. The ultimate book is one that I hauled very recently in my December book haul, and that is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. It's a beautiful edition. It's all set in the 30s. A girl and some American people move next door, and oh, life changes. Sorry, I don't mean to be dismissive, it's just that's genuinely all I know about this book. I just want to know why it's a big deal. And also, it's a really lovely edition, and I just want to be cozy and, like, read this sweet, sweet book. So, like, that's my motivation for that. Finally, I'm a bit nervous about my final choice, because I feel like it's a challenge, or I don't know if it's going to be a challenge. It is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is my dad's edition. It's a little bit battered, it's kind of falling apart, it's held together with a lot of sellotape, but it's been in my box to read since I was a kid, and I tried to read this when I was a child, and I did get quite a way in, but then I was about, I think, 8. And I think I was like, actually, maybe this is a little bit old for me and I'm not quite getting on with it as well as I could do. So then I've saved it, and I've saved it, and I've saved it, and I keep getting put off because I love the Lord of the Rings films, and I love, like, my dad, like, has told me bits of this, and I think he read me bits of it as a kid. But I've never just sat down and read The Lord of the Rings. I understand this is 3 books, and I've included it in my top 10 books. But, like, so I've decided, if nothing else, I want to have read The Fellowship of the Ring, and then see how, maybe take a break, read the rest, maybe don't do them all in one go. But I'm including The Fellowship of the Ring as my 10th book I want to read, because I think I should finally get there and do it myself. I will admit to a little bit of nerves, because I'm worried that I'm going to read it and I'm not going to like it, and I'm sure I will. I'm just a bit nervous about it, to be honest. But yes, those are the 10 books that I definitely want to read this year. There are a gazillion other books which I want to read, and I know that none of these are, like, new releases or anything, but I'm just excited. Oh, calm down now. What are you definitely planning on reading in 2019? Are there any particular goals you've set yourself? Any particular, like, ones that you're like, yes, 100% this? How are you starting off your year reading? What are you doing? I'm personally doing the Turn Infinity Round 2 reading challenge as we speak. Well, as you watch. I don't know what the right phrasing for that is. Faffin. I'll stop there. I'm rambling. I hope you're having a really nice start to 2019. I hope all is good with you, and I hope you're reading something particularly spectacular. I will see you next week for something different.